Hey, what's up there? This is Cody the Coin Raptor coming at you with another video focused on all things Bitcoin. And in today's video, I want to go ahead and talk about GBTC and what is going on with GBTC, the death of GBTC, and the reason for that. And before we get started, though, make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you follow me on X and also on Threads. So before we get to that, I want to briefly touch upon what Bitcoin has been doing over the past couple of days. We've noticed here that Bitcoin had a strong rejection of resistance here at 68,000, following a very strong bounce off of support here at about 63,000. So this, I think, is incredibly bullish, especially when you're given the fact that the wick for this candle goes all the way down to that support level, meaning that buyers came in and they bought at that 63K level, and they basically pushed the price back up again. It was a solid rejection of moving below this level. That's very bullish in my opinion, and I do think Bitcoin is going to shatter the 68K region here very, very soon, given the fact that we've seen already a consolidation around this price. So Bitcoin's been doing great lately, okay? Bitcoin has been doing fantastic, especially when you compare it to traditional equities such as on the NASDAQ, which is down almost 4% in the last 5 days. The S&P 500, which is down 1.5% or so in the last 5 days. Comparing that to Bitcoin, which is up about a little over 2% in the last 5 days, it's obvious why people are looking to go and buy Bitcoin, especially add Bitcoin as part of their spot ETFs, as part of their portfolio. And as a result, Bitcoin spot ETF inflows have been very impressive, especially on the past couple of days when we've seen large inflows of over almost $400-500 million or so of the spot ETFs. Now, the one exception to this has always been GBTC. Now, again, if you take a look at the one-day net inflow, or in this case, outflow for GBTC, you can see here that on Friday, the 26th, you had $26 million worth of outflows of GBTC. And this is something I've talked about quite a bit. GBTC right now is having an incredibly difficult time. All right, if we take a look at our net inflows here, you can see that we've had a large amount of net inflows to spot ETFs. The one exception to that has always been GBTC. In fact, if you look at GBTC's their cumulative outflow, we've seen that it's actually at about $18 billion since the start of tracking this metric from when the spot ETFs were allowed back in January. So over the time span of about 6-7 months, GBTC has lost $18 billion in outflows in that time period. Now, if you compare this to something like BlackRock's IBIT, you can see here that BlackRock's IBIT has actually gone all the way up to about almost $20 billion of inflows. You compare that to Fidelity's Bitcoin, spot Bitcoin ETF, and Fidelity's here is almost at about $10 billion or so. So right now, GBTC is in a world of hurt. And the simple fact is that BlackRock's ETF has surpassed it now to being the largest spot ETF. And in fact, if we take a look at here, we go to the net assets, you can see here that BlackRock now is sitting at almost $23 billion compared to GBTC's $18 billion. In fact, GBTC might be soon overtaken by FBTC very, very shortly, okay? There's not much room in between these two. And this has kind of led to an important question, which is, what is going on with GBTC? Now, I made a whole video about this, covering GBTC and some of the problems that they're facing, but I want to go ahead and revisit that idea because it's been a little bit of time and we've had some new information come out. So we recently, if you go take a look at the Grayscale website, you take a look at the premium to discount, which is what used to be a huge selling point for Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust. And we can see here that it has actually gone to about a 0. So there's no premium, there's no discount when you compare GBTC to Bitcoin, which has historically been in a large discount to Bitcoin's actual value. All right. So we've seen large outflows to other spot ETFs. And as a result, we actually had the stepping down of Grayscale CEO Michael Sonnenschein back in May. So things got so bad that the Grayscale CEO had to leave the company, okay? And as we saw here, there were $18 billion worth of outflows from GBTC. So someone has got to take some responsibility. Now, also as a result, the new Grayscale CEO and his team have come up with another plan in order to attract those same investors back. And so GBTC has put together what they've called a mini trust. All right. So this recently came out here. They put out a press release on the 19th of July talking about the creation of a mini trust. So this is going to be another spot ETF. It's going to be approved with the ticker symbol BTC. Okay. And this is very interesting because they've put out this press release and they've come out and they've said that there's going to be an initial distribution from GBTC to BTC. So they said that it'll contribute 10% of Bitcoin. GBTC will contribute 10% of the Bitcoin that it holds to this new ETF. And you're also going to have a distribution of shares as well. So people who own GBTC are going to be owning these BTC shares at a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you own one share of GBTC, after this happens, this distribution event happens, you will own one share of this new ETF. All right. And so they also give out a target date that says on or after July 30th of 2024, anyone who purchases GBT shares will not be entitled to receive the BTC shares in the initial distribution. Now, you may be wondering, so when is this actually going to happen? They put this initial date to be set for the 31st of July, and they put everything in a nice little table here you can see here. So they have the date, they have the 1-to-1 share ratio, and then the initial transfer of the Bitcoin from GBTC to BTC. So Grayscale has gotten to the point where they recognize the fact that they're losing a huge number of customers. They've put together this alternate strategy, which is that they have this mini trust, they're going to create it, and they're going to move some of the Bitcoin from GBTC to BTC. Now, what's also interesting about this is they filed an S1, which is what you have to do for any public listing. They filed an S1, and if you come down here to the expense ratio, they have the expense ratio set at about 0.15%. All right, 0.15%. This is a huge change from GBTC, which was over 1%. Now, if you compare this to something like IBIT normally sits at 0.25%. However, they have this temporary fee waiver, which is making it sit at about 0.12%. But again, it's temporary. And if this is true, and if this holds, this would make it one of the lowest costs ETFs for Bitcoin available. So this is huge news, okay? This is enormous news because now Grayscale is trying to fight back against the likes of BlackRock and the likes of Fidelity, and they're trying to get this thing set up, and then they're actually going to be funding it, and it's going to be cost competitive with those rivals. So going back to the initial point of, is GBTC dead? I would say, based on this, it has quite a few nails in its coffin. They haven't come out and they haven't said exclusively that they're going to get rid of it, but the simple fact that they're honoring this share distribution and going 1-to-1 means to me that they've basically given up on it. They've moved on from this point because they know they cannot sell the same kind of product that BlackRock does, that Fidelity does, at a much higher expense ratio, okay? Because it is the same product. It's the same product that tracks the price of Bitcoin, and they cannot sell it for a higher price. and they've seen just this massive exodus. So GBTC is basically dead. GBTC is almost buried at this point. As soon as this new ticker symbol comes online, that's going to be BTC, which is going to be confusing for people looking at Bitcoin and seeing the spot ETF. It's done. It's basically done and buried as soon as this new ETF comes online. So that being said, if you guys are interested in trying to get into the start of this, if you want to be part of that initial shareholder distribution, you have 1 day, which is going to be tomorrow, Monday. You have 1 day to buy GBTC shares and then have them converted over to this new BTC ETF that they're doing. So this is huge news, breaking news, okay? New information, and this is something that I will be looking at maybe as an alternative to IBIT. We'll see. I'll have to do some more research, and I'll probably put out another couple of videos on it when I do that research. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit that like button, and be sure to follow me on X and on Twitter or Threads. This is Cody the Coin Raptor, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.